Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue or Broad Show. It's Monday, the 20th of March, 2023. I think I said 2013 last week.
It's good
to be back.
actually.
I know. It's good to be back. It's good to get over round one. And footy is beautiful because when you don't have a win, you have to get over it pretty quickly because you've got to think about the next game. So that's a little bit about what we're going to do. I've got Mr. Sebastiani with me,
Hello.
the man who doesn't sleep because sleep's overrated. He's too busy hustling. Hello, mate.
Oh, how are you, mate? What's going on? Sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead, mate. No rest for the wicked. No rest for the wicked. We just get up, get on with it, and go again.
Yeah, we do. And it's good because this is what we wanted when we're bored, when there's no footy season. And, all of a sudden the biggest problem that we have is figuring out how to, get a clean entry inside 50 every week.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was pretty bad on Thursday, wasn't it? God, it was just a rubbish game, really, I think, from both teams. So, yeah, again, as I said on the fan cams, I'm not drawing to too many conclusions, but I would like to see a market improvement this week, just quietly.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that. We'll get to Geelong. Yeah. We're going to recap the round one game. We're going to talk about the reserves. Yes. We're going to have probably a little bit of a longer discussion around the game plan. Had a request in Instagram from Jad to go in depth on it. So in depth we will go.
Yep.
Then we'll talk a bit about the AFLW. We've got some good news that we want to share.
Yes.
And then we'll look ahead, round two, team selection. And before you know it, it's 8 p.m. and the almost Blues Brothers are on. So,
yep. It's going to be a short, sharp, and quick show because there's plenty to get through. And as we said just before we went on, we're the Thursday night game again. So there's no waiting around, mate. We've got to get stuck straight back into it, don't we?
Yeah. No, we sure do. Sure do.
Better that way.
So that's what we'll do. Firstly, the members of the channel, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for your support. Both the Blue Broad channel, the Jumper Punch channel, Pommy and Oz, all the names and all the content creators on the network. Really appreciate the support. Goes without saying, I'm past the point where I can have every name scrolling across the bottom now because there's just too many names. So I think that's a good
thing. Who you are. You know who you are.
Yes, you know who you are. And if you do have interest in supporting the channel and becoming a member, just hit the join button right next to the subscribe button on YouTube, and you can join in the fun. Now, let's just start. Let's just get into it.
Yep.
Round one, we waited and we waited and we waited and we got there and we showed up, 88,000 of us and the Tigers fans, and we watched a draw. So we'll start this as we usually do. Those of you in the audience watching, 3 words to summarize round one while Paul Sebastiani goes into it. Mate, what happened?
3 words to sum up that game. I was right. My more philosophical synopsis of the game is that our midfield was poor. Our forward line or our small forwards were poor, and our back line was enormous under ridiculous duress, which shouldn't have been the case, but so be it. Unfortunately, it played into the hands of the Tigers because we know our defensive transition is not our strong suit, and we're still probably working on it, and it's still something that we need to really hone in on because there were moments in that game where we should have hit hard on the counter and we weren't able to, whether it was skill errors, whether it was decision making, whether it was not set up properly for defensive transition, and it meant that the initial ball carrier and the bloke starting the chain wasn't able to get a wriggle on, and then didn't really like the post-game press conference either from Vossi, but I think we might get onto that one a little bit later, closer to the end. But yeah, thought some of our bigger names were pretty poor. Really disappointed in Chera. Didn't like Cripps's game. Thought our ball use from the back half was, I don't use this phrase lightly, but I thought it was pretty cowardly, to be honest. No one really wanted to go. No one really wanted to take the game on. And then the one bloke who takes the game on Lockie O'Brien cops a pasting from a lot of supporters because of it. It should have happened 10 or 12 times, 20 minutes before he did. So, yeah, I don't know if it was because they were slightly nervy about the pitch, but then I just sound like Ty from Arsenal Fan TV. So, I mean, if they're worried about the pitch affecting the way that they're going to play, well, I mean, God help us.
It was raining.
Yeah. Come on, Ty.
Come on, Ty.
But for Doherty, I can understand it because he's had 2 ACLs. I get it. But for the rest, like, God, there were some passages of play where you just were left thinking, what is going on here? Like, up until like that second quarter, I thought we played it perfectly. You know, that short, sharp ball movement, slow the game down, take it away from Richmond because they want the ball. They want the ball alive. They want the ball active. They want the ball moving. And we failed to do it, I think, in the last quarter and just played in their hands. And as I said, I thought it all stemmed from the midfield. I thought they were poor on the night, aside from George Hewitt. I thought they were really well beaten.
Yeah, hang on. I think I might have.
So forget that it's been raining, so the pitch is quite.
It's been raining.
Yeah.
Are you being serious? It's raining for both teams.
Yeah, I know. But
come on, Tom.
I just so happen to have it.
Oh, God.
It's too good.
It's been a long time since that excuse. God, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think Pommy uploaded that for a previous show, so that's good timing. There's a few things. Yeah, the midfield. I just cast my mind back to, all right, what am I comparing what I saw Thursday night to when we're at our best? What does our best look like? And I just remember 1, 2, maybe 3 handballs into space to give the kicker enough time to make the right decision. Then we go forward.
Yeah.
Don't really recall that synergy being there with the midfield group. That synergy being there, definitely not there between midfield and forward. I feel like both teams will look at that game and say, God, we didn't use the ball well. Spoke to a few Richmond supporters who mentioned that I think a few commented on the review video around how they've always struggled with their mid-forward connection. It was actually really interesting to hear, that side of the fence and what they say. But yeah, a lack of total synergy. Having said that, when I watched the replay, it wasn't as bad as what I probably thought it was on Thursday night, but the offensive game was just not there. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, and Charlie too had like 4 or 5 moments where he was clear one-on-one, and it was the perfect kick to him, and he just couldn't. Whether or not he didn't engage early enough. Look, and Grimes is not a bad defender, but God, I mean, his first half I thought was pretty poor, to be honest, and he was better after half time, but it just seemed like a close game for both teams. So we had almost moments on the counter, they had almost moments in front of goal as well. So look, do you read into it a lot? The only thing I read into, and the only thing I was really disappointed in, was probably 2 things. One, some of the bigger names, especially in midfield, not stepping up, but not having a big influence on the game and really winning us the game. And 2, just our ball use from the back half into offense was just it was not daring enough. Those are the 2 big bugbears for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think you and I probably spoke about this 12 months ago around the willingness to take that kick through the corridor. And I mean, I think back then, a guy like Zach Williams loves to take off that kick. I think McGovern's usually good at doing that. But I think he was probably dealing with his own, we'll call it match fitness or touch. He just looked like a guy that had, had a modified preseason, to be fair to him. But yeah, no dare. Not many of those inboard kicks that really took the game on and opened it up. And I hate getting sucked into other games. I really do, because 2 different situations. But when I watched Friday night, and the reason why I'm comparing it is because these are teams that are probably going to be challenging for that top 6, top 4 spot.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, all right, well, where's that for us? And again, maybe our game was just one of those defensive games, because to be fair to the defense, they were exceptional.
I think, and I'd have to quickly go back and look at the numbers, but I know last year, and not to rehash it, but I know Collingwood in a lot of games actually conceded the inside 50 count, but it kind of fueled their game because their defensive transition, like you said, they just go, and they've got the ball users to be able to do that. Whereas us, I don't know what it is. I actually don't think it's a skill thing. I think the blokes down there are actually good users of the ball. I actually think it's just the lack of dare and just the lack of, like, they just kind of go into their shells in those moments. Whereas the best teams, when the pressure comes on, they just lift. They go to another level. You either wilt or you shine in those moments. And I don't think we shined at all in those moments on Thursday. But I will say, I actually thought we were pretty well set up in that last quarter, if that makes sense, to rebound. It was either one a skill error from the beginning of the chain, like McGovern or Wiedering or TDK, when he came across and took that intercept sort of with about maybe 5 minutes to go. And then he went to go to the open side, which was the right play, and he scuffed the kick. And then Wiedering and McGovern in the back line, they were fluffing around with it. And Wiedering said, "Oh, no, I don't want to take the kick. Oh, here, McGovern, you have it." And then he's put his teammate under the pump, and McGovern's kicked it on. Wiedering has to take that kick. Do you know the passage of play I'm talking about?
Oh, exactly. You know why I know? Because when McGovern took the mark, I turned to my friend and I said, "Gee, McGovern's good for us." And then obviously moments later, he kicks it out in a full. But I remember the play.
Yeah, but what he's going to Wiedering to give him the ball to say, "Mate, go to the open side." And the kick was on to the open side. Wiedering just refused to take it. Honestly, he's such a beautiful kick, but he's one of the biggest proponents of that in the back line, Terry. That inability to want to take that risky kick. Mate, take it, son. Seriously, mate, it's starting to become frustrating, mate. And it's all our leaders that are not stepping up in these moments. Saad darting through half back, 3 or 4 Carlton players around him, and they're all just looking at him. No one's saying you're hot. No one's saying give us the ball. No one's protecting him to provide a shepherd. He gets run down. So I don't know. I thought there was a lot of selfish play on Thursday night as well, and a lot of self-preservation, I think, in that moment. Yeah. So just release the shackles, mate. And our half forward line, oh my God, like involving those small forwards as well. It's non-existent.
Yeah, that forward half game, which we built our brand on last year, obviously not there. Self-preservation is a very interesting word, because, to be fair, I've probably been using that term for a couple of years now.
What are you scared of?
Into our shells.
Who cares? Just go for it, mate. Like, if you lose, you lose. So be it.
Yeah.
Bad luck.
Yeah, I mean, think maybe the build-up doesn't help as well when you don't get the result, because you'll be waiting for it for so long. Yeah. I guess I just went into the game having round 23 in the back of my mind, having all the context of last year in the back of my mind, thinking, all right, it's been such a significant preseason because of the way it ended and the pain and all of that I guess I just expected a better spectacle from a team that is really wanting to turn it around. And again, it's one game and I need a month. Yeah. The storyline might look better in a few weeks. I mean, touch wood, maybe we beat Geelong this week, all of a sudden last, and then Richmond have a good win. Maybe it looks better than what it is. So I'm mindful of not jumping on them too much, but also at the same time, that total trust between all of them and that synergy, it just wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think there's also a case of when it gets to those squeaky bum time moments late in the game when it's close. I think they've still got that mental scar from last season to suggest that, oh God, here we go again. And this is what Pommy and I were adamant about last season, is that just because you're in these moments time and time again doesn't mean that you're actually going to get better. In all probability, you'll get worse. Did we get better in those moments on Thursday night? To a certain extent, yes, because I actually didn't mind what O'Brien did. I thought it was that moment. Yeah.
That moment I have no issue with. I said it in my review. In the moment, maybe we should just touch on that, because a bit of talk around it, and O'Brien seems to be an easy target. In the moment, I remember screaming out and thinking he took too long. And then when I watched the replay, at the end of the day, if you're not sure you can execute on the kick, you don't kick it. And at the end of the day, he hit the target, and Harry happens to step on the patch of grass that was just laid, and it was just one of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, like, you look at it and he had to hit a 55-meter kick, whereas if he kept going, it would have been that 30-meter kick, which he eventually hit. So, and I kind of look at it and think it's almost like the corner flag play. in soccer. When you run as far into your half as you can, you get it towards the corner. And if worse comes to worse, you get it over the boundary line, you set up, you rehash, and then you go again and you keep the ball in your front half. So, gaining territory in that moment, I think, was good. But then you can wind it back and say, oh, Motlop should have gone short. But I mean, I'd prefer them to win the game in that moment, because the 2 times we tried to go slow in those moments last year, we lost. So,
Well, that kick from McGovern was brilliant.
Perfect.
We just need to see it 7 more times in the first half.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, and that's what I was saying earlier, is that what O'Brien did should have happened 12 times before in that last quarter, and it didn't. So, and as I said, whether or not it was because, one, there was a lack of decision making or decisiveness from the initial ball carrier in that moment, 2, either a skill error, or 3, just not really being set up properly ahead of the ball as well, which we weren't for that final transition. I don't know if it was a ploy to say, okay, well, we don't want any forwards up there, because it was 5-on-1 in favour of Richmond in the inside our forward 50 late in the game there. And then I think you can also then, my issue with it is that, okay, well, the ball's up in our front half. How have Richmond gone from one end of the ground to the other without being touched? Yeah. That's my concern. It's those lines, and we mentioned it in the preseason too, those 5 to 6 lines that set up on the field that stop the ball from getting out of your front half, which continually collapse. Whether or not that's due to fitness, whether or not that's due to lack of adhering to your structure, it's probably a little bit of both, especially at that time of the game. But again, it's that half forward to that first defensive middle line just continues to fold, which is not great. And you look at the blokes who were trying to stop it. Like, you've got across that half forward line, we had Ed Curnow, we had Jack Silvani, and we had Jack Martin. They're not known for any of that, really. So it probably ended up being to our detriment.
Yeah, we struggled certainly from that half forward. When you think about the guys that rotate through there, you mentioned 3 of them. I think Zach Fisher's another one. These are senior players now. These are not, up and coming, might be, could be, should be, would be. This is them. They make up the senior group of, dare I say it, some of the leadership. I know that Cripps is the leader and Wiedering's the vice captain on the night, but I look at guys like Silvani and Jack Martin and Zach Fisher and Ed Curnow as leaders on the night,
Yeah, exactly right. And I think in that passage of play there, that last passage of play which led to the Richmond goal, people should have been rolling up. Not like everyone was folding back. People should have been rolling up in that moment there. And again, like, look at that passage of play where Lynch took them up. There were 3 blokes around him. Everyone's having a go at O'Brien, and everyone's having a go at the rest, and Harry. But what about the 3 blokes who let Tom Lynch have a free run and jump at the football? That's unacceptable. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, between Wiedering, I watched it. So Young waited because McGovern must have made the call, and McGovern just didn't impact the contest. Wiedering was moved out of the way. I mean, to be fair, it was a great mark and a great passage of play and great forward craft, but it was just one of those moments where, Young leaves it for McGovern. McGovern goes up high, just not high enough, and just doesn't time it right. And it's funny when the storylines, it all actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The senior guys who had the modified pre-seasons kind of played like it. They had lost a little bit of touch, or they didn't have full touch. Then you talk about, some of the midfield who were also on modified programs, just not being quite in sync. Then you talk about the wings, probably didn't have full trust in them, new players, new to the system, etc. And it all comes together and it all makes a lot of sense. And to be fair to you, the way you previewed the game is actually perfect for the review of the game, because you said, I just can't split the 2 teams. And that was kind of what it was.
Yeah. Look, I love strong defense, Terry. Don't get me wrong. I think I love watching a team hang in and really absorb the pressure. I actually think it's an art, really. And I don't think it's something that coaches should be too worried about. I don't think Vossi would be too worried about our defensive 50 or our defense having to deal with those and that amount of inside 50s. To a certain extent, you are, because it means your midfield is getting beaten and you're getting beaten up the ground, obviously. But I think there's also a reliance as well and a trust with that back 6 and 7 that no, these guys can handle it. Let's leave them be for the time being. But then it also fuels the opposition game to lock the ball in the front half, because we can't move the ball forward, if that makes sense. Our defensive transition into offense is just not up to scratch at the moment. So that's something that they need to continually work on. And that's why Richmond had numerous chances, because we couldn't transfer the ball out from our back half as well. So, look, does there need to be major surgery? I don't think so. I wouldn't have thought so. I think what is fixable is just an intent to move the ball faster and with more decisiveness from the back half. And the ball users are there. That's the frustrating thing. That's the only thing that frustrated me. And again, the midfield as well. They needed to step up. I thought Chera was. I thought he was really disappointing. I thought it was a perfect game for him to say, "This is my time. I've arrived. Walsh is not in the team. I need to step up. I need to win this game for my club." And I didn't think he was there, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't really rate his game.
Yeah, look, it's definitely one of those games that is rectifiable.
Yep.
With focus, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I said it in my preview just now for the Geelong game. I mean, we need better focus, better synergy, and better execution. Now, these are all beautiful words, and they sound great. They roll off the tongue, and it's easier said than done. But it's true. Like the execution piece, we're evolving. We're moving away from that time in our lives where we're like, oh, well, as long as the boys give good effort and, as long as they try it, no, that is not going to cut it anymore. And it was there, and well done. You did your job with your effort. That execution piece is ultimately going to be the thing that decides whether we get better or we don't. Yep.
As are the tactics as well from the guys in the coach's box too. So that's a big thing as well. But I think, and I'm hoping that it's the case of Vossi is protecting our players publicly and saying, no, it's a good, pat him on the back in public, but behind closed doors, just saying, nah, not good enough. Not good enough.
I got that feeling when I watched his presser. In the moment, I watched it on Thursday night after the fan cams, which was probably not a good idea. But I watched the presser and I remember thinking, okay, all right, he's clearly going into bat for them, and all right, you want to positively reinforce the ability to hold the fort, but I hope that's not what he's saying behind closed doors.
Yeah. To a certain extent, yes. I mean, sometimes you do need to be cuddled as well, but I think that there's a time and place for it all. But look, I mean, we'll see this week. We'll see what the response is this week. Let's not forget too. I mean, a lot of people rate Richmond very highly this season as well. So we could look back on this game and think, "Sheesh, fuck, these two teams going at it in round one were actually ended up being teams right up there at the end of the year." So again, I get the feeling as well that we are going to be managed far better this season, if that makes sense. I felt last year we peaked. We were like geared up in round one. This is what I was saying on the JP as well, is that the reason I thought Richmond would rock up and look better than us was because they were geared up and trialed up to do that, because they had Taranto, they had Hopper, they had these guys who needed to prove something straight away. That's not to say that we didn't have anything to prove straight away, but I look at it from a horse racing analogy, and I know it's completely different, but to a certain extent you can pick up certain things too. But the best horses, the best trainers, the best athletes manage themselves in season and are ready to peak at the right time. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't think I sent this to you in the agenda, but I kind of wanted to just run through some votes, just 3 2s and 1s.
Okay.
Pass it down to the audience. So those of you at home, 3 votes, 2 votes, 1 vote. Let us know in the comments. I will preface this by saying that Lewis Young received 6 coaches' votes, and George Hewitt received 3. They were the only 2 Carlton players to receive votes. So, Paolo, how did you see?
I went. I'm just trying to think of my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the JP. I think I'll go 3 to Lewis Young, 2 to George Hewitt, and 1 to Harry Mackay. I think that was the 5, 4, 3 I went in. So that can be my 3, 2, 1 for this exercise.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
I think everyone will have Young as a 3-vote player. I definitely did. These were actually my votes. Young, Hewitt, and Wiedering. I thought about Harry. Harry looked sharp, just not as much in front of goals, but he looked sharp off the mark. He looked like he had some bounce in his legs. Off the mark, off the stationary Adonis, off the stationary spot. But just not enough. Just not enough.
Harry was like a 70-30 game. 70% of it was brilliant, and he was the outlet across. I love him working up the ground. I think it's such an important facet to the modern game, especially as a gun forward. But that 30% was his finishing as well. And I think Rocco said, did he say on the fan cams? He even said on the JP this week, he goes, mate, I was behind the goals watching him do those set shots before the game from that exact spot, and he missed them all. He didn't kick one.
The debutants, the young boys. I got to say, I was surprised that they both were named. I thought one would be named. I was just mindful of naming them both, but I think they both had early moments where they got themselves into the flow of the game. I think Ollie Hollands had that 1-on-2 contest, and then I think Cowan took an intercept mark pretty early in the piece, and that is a long-term positive to see two young kids come in and show something.
Yeah, no, they weren't overawed by the moment, which is good. So, like Holland's effort in was it the first quarter when he went back with the flight and had to stand in front of Lynch. So he's like a cattle dog, mate. He just works up and down all game. I want to see them. I want to see them get him off the leash a bit more offensively. I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to see his heat map in a more defensive type of role. And Pommy was mentioning this as well, is that he was playing sort of towards the back half, if that makes sense. I'd prefer him to be the bloke running forward and streaming inside forward 50 and hurting opposition that way. So that's what I'd be looking at. But Cowan as well, his physicality was great. He won a couple of one-on-ones too. So I think we've got two very nice players there. I like the look of both, and both deserve their debuts, I think, as well.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't mind this from John Benigno. 2 players with 0 tackles, 4 players with 1 tackle, 7 players with 2 tackles in our team. Toby Nankervis Ruckman, 12 tackles. Jack Graham, 9 tackles. Tim Taranto, 8 tackles. That's 4 Richmond players with more tackles than half our team. Where is this preseason of top levels of fitness and a ferocious desire at the footy built on how Vossi and Wayne Johnson did many years ago? Where are the leading patterns of play in our forward line? Simple lead-ups, hitting a man on the chest, too predictable. Is that what we trained on?
No, it's a fair point. I mean, if you're going out to a football field and you're not laying one tackle, I reckon you want to look hard into your soul. I think unless you're a pure outside player and you've had 35 disposals and murdered the opposition on the outside, then fair enough. But not good enough if you're going out there, especially small forwards and mids, not laying tackles. Not on. I would say
for sure. Well, just like that, round 1's done. We're going to move on. Yep. We'll stop talking about it. We will come back and circle back to team selection when we talk about round 2. So keep your team selections in mind, ladies and gents, and then we'll go from there. The VFL, the reserves.
Yep.
They had I watched the highlights.
Yep.
So very happy with what I saw from some up and coming players. I think. Did you watch it? You were there?
Yeah, I was there.
Mate, go for it.
The start was poor. I was left scratching my head for a little while. We were down by about 5.5, 6 goals, and just the ball use going inside forward 50. Just God, it was one of those games where we built into it, and then there was a patch in the second term where we dominated the ball and front half entries, and we're just not able to connect with our forwards. And interesting, Alex Murkoff played out of the square for a fair bit of the game as well, which is interesting. I haven't seen him play that just yet, but I guess that's something that they're trying to add to his game. And a good comeback again. I mean, we're going to mention his name, but Paddy Dow, 4 goals and a heap of the ball as well. Again,
he just game. It is a very significant.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's definitely a game where he'd be putting his hand up. Definitely, I think. for this round. I know that they probably won't go down that path, but you never know. I mean, he's adding goal kicking to his game as well, which is, I don't think he's ever kicked 4 goals in a game full stop. So it's probably a career first for him. Pitternet was strong. That was a weird one too. I don't know why he played VFL. I get it, the fact that they're concerned he can't run out 4 quarters, but you've got a sub, So he was pretty strong. I'd be very surprised if he didn't come in this week. Who else? Dom McQuay had some really nice intercept moments, which were really exciting. He reads the ball so well in the air, which is really, really pleasing for him too. And he's starting to get involved in the game a lot more than he did last season. So that's a big tick for him. Lockie Plowman was fine. He was fine. It was just, him and Dow were probably the standouts, I'd have thought. Carroll was good. Chincotta was okay. One thing I noticed too is that our VFL boys were hell-bent on the switch.
Okay.
And it's been a pattern of the play, I think, in these 2 VFL practice games against Port Melbourne and against Richmond. And the frustrating thing is that it just didn't seem to be translated into the AFL team, whether or not it was because, you've got opposition trying to stop you, but I didn't feel there was an intent or an endeavour with regards to that in the AFL team, whereas there was with the VFL boys too. So, strong performance, solid performance. I was really pleased with what I saw. Lemmy as well. I think he kicked 2 late goals to help us win the game. So, and again, he's as raw as anything. He's going to take a little while to sort himself out as well. So, but overall, pretty pleasing display, I would have thought. Pretty pleasing display. There's definitely enough there to suggest Pitternet can come back into the team. I'm pleased with what I saw in that game.
Yeah. Well, he just gives us so much more space at the contest in tight.
Yeah, that's which we didn't have a lot of. It's amazing. When he doesn't play, our midfielders don't get that first look and don't get that space around the contest, because TDK just can't. He's just not that blocker. He's not that physical ruckman that we need in those scenarios. If we could have, and I know this is such a stupid thing to say, but if we could have Pitternet strengths and TDK strengths mixed into one player, that's perfect. It's just you've got
we had him.
Capacity,
we had him. His name was Matthew Cruiser.
Yeah. He was just injury prone, the poor bugger. But no, I am expecting Pitternet to come into the team. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Yeah.
Was he the only one you think that actually makes a claim?
Him and Dow, if they want to maybe swap up a midfielder, but I mean, we didn't see it all last season, so I would highly doubt that it's going to be a case for this game. Other than that, maybe if he's fit, but he hasn't had a game, he didn't play in the VFL game, maybe Corey Durden. But yeah, I think Pitternet could be the only one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the reserves.
Yeah.
I've got to give a shout out to the AFLW because
signings.
I feel like there's been nothing positive to talk about for a long time.
No.
And, this week we finally started seeing some positivity, some re-signings, some commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Started with Mimi Hill and then Karen Peterson and then, the 15 re-signings today. So well done. Still don't know what the situation is with the coach, but at the end of the day, they are a representation of the club. You got up there at the AGM and asked the question about the AFLW program, and good to see something resembling positivity coming from the program. Yeah,
well, Darcy's signed up, Moody's signed up, Mimi Hill signed up, so now we just need to sign up a proper coach. So it's interesting as well. Cookie also he said to me that that the reason, well, not the reason, but he goes, it's hard. Not that it's an excuse, but when the AFL itself doesn't actually have a vision for anything and there's no real guidance on what they need to do and what the game is going to look like in the future, there's no real, I mean, but ultimately, I think the clubs as well have to go down a path of like, stuff it, we're just going to do our own thing for this program and make it the best possible. So, good to see that they've signed on. Good to see they've signed on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good call. I mean, from the AFL's point of view, they just wanted
it's run disgracefully.
Yeah.
Competition run disgracefully.
they made a decision that no matter what, they were going to just get everyone to the starting line, get 18 clubs, and then just, I guess, figure it out from there. So we'll see what that looks like. But I really don't want to be talking about the AFLW the way we have been. And it's been deserved the way we've spoken about it.
Oh, yes.
It's been just, disappointing.
Horrible. Yeah, horrible to watch, horrible to be associated with. And someone's got to take a stand for it. And if it's you and I or someone else, if it's a small group, it's still a group. So again, you said that it's a representation of the club, and when you don that Carlton monogram, you need to be better than what they've dished up, and that goes for all of them. So it needs to turn around pronto as well. So just again, there needs to be. I want to see an alignment with board, players, coach, and the decisions that are being made are in line with what's being said. Not, oh yeah, well, we're going down the youth path. Yeah, we want to go to the draft, and then you start drafting 38-year-olds. I don't want to see that. I want to see this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. Do it. That's it. Simple.
Yeah. Fair. Well said.
Yep.
All right. Round 2. It's coming.
Yeah.
Thursday night. We're doing it again.
We are, my friend. We are. It's crept up on us again.
What are your memories of playing against Geelong just at a high level? You guys at home, guys and girls at home, and then you. What comes to mind when you think of playing against Geelong?
It's either we rock up and give them a hiding and they can't go with us, or they're just way too good for us, if that makes sense. I felt like there's no in between, if that makes sense. I think we've only had maybe 2 real close games in the last couple of years that I can really remember. That one during COVID where there was no crowd at Cardinia Park, which we held on and won for, and then that game that we lost when Judd picked up the ball and kicked that goal, and then Warnock missed that goal late in the game that we ended up losing that game. I think it was a Friday night. So, interesting game this Thursday night. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they've been so much better than us for years, like years. That they are everything we want to be.
Well, I sat down today just before the show to do my preview, and I sat down, had the camera going, and it didn't get this part didn't make the preview. But I sat there and I said, Geelong, everything we are, everything we're not, everything we're not, everything we want to be.
Yeah,
that's my memory of Geelong. I remember a little patch between like 2014, 15, we'd come close and then they'd find a way to win late. Yeah. I remember 2020 as one of the better memories of recent times, the footage of you at Liquorland as Eddie Betts tackles Jordan Clark and we're going off your head. Yeah, but ultimately it's just one of those things. I hear Geelong's theme song. We are Geelong, the greatest team of all. And I think that must be what the people of the generation before us think of when they think of Carlton.
Yes.
But that's just nothing like what I know of Carlton. And Geelong are what I wish us to be one day.
Yeah, they are. They're just, how professional are they? Just with everything they do. They are just solely, there are 2 things that club focus on. Football, number 1, and community, number 2. And football ties into community. And it goes down the path of we want our football club to be as good as possible and professional as possible, and that will endear the community around us as well. And that's what's built that club over the last 20 years. And you know, they were obviously run by our CEO, and he did a fantastic job with them for as long as he did. And you know, they're a brilliant organisation. You can't. I don't envy them. I just have so much respect for them as a football club. But you know, the tide eventually has to turn. You know, you can't be up the top forever. You know, it's a cyclical thing. A lot of these things. You know, you start there and then you climb and then you plateau and then it's just the cycle. It's how it's been for time immemorial, really. But yeah, I mean, as you said, everything they are is what we aspire to be: professional, strong, and winning and winners and successful.
Yeah. Did you catch them last week, Friday night?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, watched it from start to finish. I thought that was stiff to lose the players that they did. I mean, as soon as you lose key position players, structurally, you're all over the joint, are you? But I mean, I know they got kind of run over the top in the last quarter, but they didn't shirk. They just kept going and kept going and kept going, and they did not stop just because of injuries. So ultimately, it ended up leaving them short at the back, and they were a bit thin down there, and it probably cost them in the end. But that's the difference between them and us. We probably would have gone into our shells if that happened, whereas Geelong just kept plying away and just kept plowing through regardless of the results. So, yeah, they'll be sore after that game. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, coming off a 6-day break, watching them. Obviously, I made the comment earlier around thinking, we're probably a few levels below this quality of football. The other part, which I think doesn't get touched on, because usually when this stuff happens, we only focus on it when it goes against us or when there's a negative. But when you think about Thursday night and how slippery it was with the turf and whatever, and then you saw them all slipping over again on Friday, and then you see Tom Stewart slip and literally hurt himself because of that. I sort of thought to myself, we've been asking for some good luck with the injury front. We probably got that on Thursday night when you look back and reflect. No injuries, touch wood, because of the turf or because of a situation like that. Like, touch wood, imagine we see something like that happen to Wiedering, our key defender, and he slipped on the turf. We'd be here right now cursing the league.
Yeah. Well, did you see the Doherty comments about the ground?
Yeah. What do you make of that?
That's fair enough, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, for a bloke who's done 2 ACLs, I get it. Clearly, he probably would have been pooping himself going out on the ground. So, one shift of the grass one way, and that's it. It's career over. So, touch wood, as you said, we don't get. But I mean, it's regardless of conditions and all that. It's a brutal game. So things are going to happen. But I don't think it's people saying, oh, why'd they have an Ed Sheeran concert before? I mean, why they have Ed Sheeran concerts before? Because they sold 200,000 tickets. That's why.
Correct. They had 110,000 people twice.
They're cool. They're happy to let go of the turf for maybe a week or two to get that revenue in. So I get it. Apparently, I had an apprentice groundskeeper ring me up on air the other night, saying that it actually won't take long for the turf to be able to get back to where it needs to be. He said maybe a week or two. So I think it was Andrew McKay calling, actually. But anyway.
Very good. Very good. So is Friday night and what the Pies did, is that the formula to beating Geelong? Is that what every team needs to do?
Yeah, well, they gave you the blueprint.
I don't know if we can play the slow game that we did on Thursday and expect that to get the job done against the Cats.
Nope. We tried to do it last year and they beat us by 5 goals. So, lads, if you are listening and watching, get on your bike and move that ball quickly. Do not wait. Play on, play on, play on. That play on when we marked the ball just felt non-existent the other night, and it's felt non-existent from the Sydney game in pre-season. So, revert back to what you did against Collingwood in that pre-season game. Mark the ball, head on a swivel, look to dish it off, look to come inside, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we spoke about the loss of Zach Williams in the back half of the preseason and the need for that next layer of, meters gained player to emerge. Not that we don't have them. McGovern's a meters gained player. Doherty's a meters gained player. Adam Sardi's a run and carry meters gained player. Newman, to be fair, he had a job last week on Dusty, so maybe that hindered him. But it's not like we don't have run and carry 1-2 type players in the team from the back half. And it's not like we don't have those players in the midfield as well. So if we bring that type of game to Geelong Thursday night, like, the crowd's going to get involved. We're going to get involved, mate. It's going to be off its head Thursday night if we play that way.
Don't underestimate the 19th man, Terry. When those blue baggers get up and about early, you start running on top of the ground, and the players always say that they feed off our energy as well. So, but that is also up to the players to get us up and about and involved too. It takes two to tango in that regard. But again, and Pommy and I are adamant on it. Use our strength, short, sharp ball movement, but be sharp with your ball movement. Go. You don't have to go long all the time and go fast all the time. But when you are moving the ball, move the ball with intent, move the ball with purpose. And that in turn will lead you to moving the ball a lot quicker than you usually do. And like we did on that Thursday night against Richmond. So, with intent comes speed. It's almost a byproduct of it as well. So get on the front foot in this game. You know, I mean, they're vulnerable. They're there for the taking now, mate. No Selwood, Stewart's out. The Koenig got an injury cloud over him. Hawkins has got an injury cloud over him as well. There's no Menegola. Mitch Duncan's not playing. Jack Henry's not playing. They might get back Kolajasny potentially as well. But, you know, this is a game where they are vulnerable and you've got to make the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. I saw some comments earlier around people saying they're a bit more confident this week than what they were last week. And I'm starting to warm to the idea. But I don't want to get sucked into what could be until what is happens first. So could be a special night. Could be.
I think it will be, to be honest. I was coming into the season, I was actually far more confident of us knocking off Geelong than I was Richmond. And I still am. And I don't think there's any reason from my point of view, from what I've seen, to really change it. I think we will play a more expansive style on Thursday because they'll look back at the game against Richmond and think, okay, well, we need to be on the front foot a little bit more, and that's okay. Probably got away with one, but I need to see it, and I want to see it, and I think we will see it on Thursday. It's a home game. Be a nice night, you know, and provided Pitternet comes back in, I think we will be winning on Thursday, and I think we will be winning quite comfortably, to be honest. I think it just has the makings of that game, and that's what I'm looking at from that perspective.
So, can we get 2 from 2 from you? Can we get a margin? Can we get a prediction?
Yeah, I had Carlton by 17 points.
Carlton by 17 points, ladies and gents.
Yep.
You have heard it from the man that picked the draw last week. So, Carlton by 17. Let's go through team selection, and then we'll go to predictions from the audience. So, those of you playing along at home, type in your team selection. What are you doing if you were selecting the team this week, Paul?
Yes, I would be going with. I would be taking out Jack Martin and bringing in Pitternet and playing TDK more as that half forward outlet across half forward. So that's what I would be doing, and I want to see Zach Fisher played more on the ball. He was a ghost in the second half, and I actually thought when the game was there to be won, I wanted to see him be thrown on the ball a lot more than what he was on the week against Richmond. So I don't think there are going to be too many changes from a personnel point of view, but I think the one change that will occur is Pitternet in for Jack Martin. And maybe if Durden is fit, maybe Durden does come in for Matt Owies potentially. Those are the only maybe 2 changes I would make.
Yeah. I'm picturing either Martin or Fisher would come out for Pitto. I would say it has to be Martin. I mean, that type of performance has to be quote unquote punished. You need to suffer you need to feel a consequence for that performance, I think. So yeah, and you know, Jack is better than that, and Jack has to be better than that. I think Pommy came on the ratings video we did live, and he said, you know, I'm looking at it this way. He said, I'm looking at it, we're playing in a prelim, we're playing Brisbane at the Gabba, and Jack Martin plays like that. He's like, I need Jack Martin to do more. And I agree. Like, Jack's a certain player that I hold to a higher standard than a Lockie Cowan or an Ollie Hollins or even a Zach Fisher. Jack Martin is and maybe that's delusional by me. Maybe I shouldn't be holding him to a higher standard, but I do.
Maybe. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. And I just don't. Another thing too is that Jack Martin actually played a little bit on ball against Port Melbourne as well, and we saw none of it against Richmond. So maybe it's a case of them keeping him. It wouldn't surprise me if they keep him in. It would not surprise me at all. But
no, not at all.
Yeah. But I think I do think that they will make a move, and I think Pitternet just has to come in because I'm just sick to death of this Jack Silvani in the ruck.
Oh my god,
sick to death of it. I'm done with it. When I see him with that stupid white tape and that shin pad, I get the irrits. I get irate. I don't want to see him in the ruck. Play him half forward as that hit up role. Leave him there.
Yeah, I think just going back to your point on Fish as well, I think we'll need him up the ground more this week because last year we had Walsh who really cut them up, and I think he got a Brownlow vote last year. Fish is the type of player, and if you watch the round 1 replay, I don't know what happened because in that first quarter he was, let's say the first 10, 15 minutes, he was on the wing, he was lively, pushing up the ground, and then and then he just completely
Yeah.
disappeared. So we need to get him involved. And I personally think he's at his best when he's running into forward 50, delivering the ball into forward 50 in space. Yes, he can pop up and kick a goal like he did last week, but I don't think that's what they call the one wood, as David King and the Prendergast boys would say. I don't think it's his one wood.
No, it's a fair point as well. I mean, look, again, it's not major surgery with regard to this team coming into this week. All it is an intent and an endeavour and a decisiveness to want to move the ball better than we did against Richmond. And I think we have the players to do it. And I want to see them maybe rotate a few more players there on the ball as well. Maybe get Doherty through. I know he's going to have to occupy that halfback role a little bit more than we would have probably desired with regards to Williams going down. But change it up a little bit. Get those guys in there. Get those guys who are a bit more direct and a bit more decisive with their ball use in there. So maybe we're not fluffing around with it at stoppage. But I think the big thing for me and the big in has to be Pitnet.
Yep.
Just has to be.
For sure. What about Ed? Does he keep his spot? I don't see him as a guy that plays every week. I see him as a guy that plays when we need him.
Are we really reverting back to that? Like, it just, I mean, did he give us something? I mean, for me, like when they said, we've thrown him on Prestia to stop, like to me, it's just a defeatist attitude. I don't like the tag. It's not for me. I understand it that you have to manage players who are potentially going to get off the hook and hurt you, but you've got to back in your own system. You've got to come into a game and say, no, we have a system in place and we have a game plan in place that is going to ensure that we dominate this team with regards to a certain area on the pitch, and that's for the midfield, right? We don't need to tag. We don't need to do this because we believe that we are going to get first use of the ball. So we won't need to tag. And I just think it's a dying art. And like Ed Curnow up forward at half forward, like I understand there's a kind of negating role to maybe stop rebound 50s from opposition because that's where Richmond hurt us last year.
Yeah.
And lost and really killed us in that second game that we played them. But are we really reverting back to that? Like it just. I mean, what does he offer? Ball in hand, he was poor. There was a passage of play where he was streaming inside forward 50 and turned it over. And I mean, if he's not playing predominantly midfield, how is there a spot for him in the team? Really? Yeah. And this is like it's no knock on him. Like it just. I thought we'd have moved past players like that, if that makes sense, especially at this time, eight years in or whatever we are. I get why he's in the team, but I just think that there are so many better options than him at the moment. Personally, I'd rather get some games into Josh Honey and just see if he's up to it. I know defensively he's probably not as strong as Ed, and he doesn't have as many strings to his bow, but I just feel
Honey's an interesting one. Honey seems to be the name that quickly pops up when the argument comes for playing the future and all that. And I really do understand that notion of play a guy like Honey. But when I think of Josh Honey, I mean, he played in the preseason. He got a shot first up, and has Honey really done enough to say, four quarters?
Yeah.
I love him. I love Josh, but like, has he really shown something other than a moment where he gets a fingertip in or he's clever, but like it's not, it's Jack Martin-esque,
Yeah, flash in the pan is what we call it.
Yeah.
Well, obviously not because he's not playing. But look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a spot for Ed. I don't know, but I just felt that we'd have moved on from players like that. Mind you, granted, I will say in those last 4 games he would have been handy in that midfield.
For sure. Well, that's where I picture him playing. I mean, if we're only Sam Walsh away from having our best midfield, is that really when Ed starts to come into the team, when Sam Walsh is missing? I would have thought Carroll, Dow, these guys have proven themselves, and that might be something to say for what those other guys have done or haven't done yet to prove themselves. So, but we'll see.
We will
see. We've got 5 minutes left. We'll get everyone's predictions. Paul, you've said the Blues by 17. Those of you in the audience, let us know, what do you think will happen this week, and what will the storyline be? What will the story of Thursday night be? Paul, do you have a story? Do you have a storyline?
Do I have a storyline? Harry kicks 5 as Blues blitz Cats. There you go.
Oof. Harry kicks 5 as Blues blitz Cats.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go. No, if it's close, I can't back us in. So it has to be us both. I can't yet.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if we won a close game against?
It would be great. I welcome it with open arms. With open arms. I don't want anything more.
I see this happened, and this is why I love going to the opposite. This is why I love going the opposite opinion and going against the grain in these moments. Everybody thinks we can't win a close game, and it's proven that, in the last 3 games of AFL that we probably can't. But it would not surprise me one iota if we come out and win by a point or 2.
I would be overjoyed. And I'll tell you what, we win by under a kick, and I guarantee you the Kool-Aid will come out. I guarantee you.
You've got one there. Great. Fantastic.
So, I think I'll give you a storyline. I'll go Jacob Wiedering keeps Hawkins or Cameron, whoever he plays on, goalless again.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Again. So I'm going to go for that one.
Right.
I'm confident that we're capable. And I will tip us. And I think we can do it. And one thing I didn't see last week that I want to see this week, I want to see us with our trademark 8-goal quarter. Where's that?
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Get those blue baggers up and about too. And don't forget as well, rock up. You want 70,000 plus there on Thursday night. We want to sound them out, because they don't really rock up to the MCG. Collingwood sounded them out, so let's sound them out as well. And the Wolf and Moo was getting a good run on Thursday night, which is great.
It was. It sure was. Well, speaking of the origin of the Wolf, let's look ahead to the week ahead. We've got a jam-packed night. I will say this. It's so good to be back. And it's chaos. The footy's chaos. But for me, honestly, it calms me down. There's so much to do and organize and manage and arrange and all of that. But I find a real sense of calm doing it. I feel normal. Almost feel like I had too much time in the preseason. That's probably what got to me a little bit. But tonight, 8 p.m, in a few minutes, the Almost Blues Brothers will be live again. Tomorrow, the Jumper Punch, 7 p.m. tomorrow. And let's have a look at the special guest who will preview the show. Stand by.
Dad, didn't they call you the Dominator?
Yeah, they did, Darcy, but you didn't need to ask me that. I actually got it not playing football, but we won't go into that. Yes, a lot of people do call me the Dominator, but right now, we're looking at the Jumper Punch at 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights, and they are the Dominators at the moment. Thank you.
That's it. All right. Perfect. Thanks, Dad.
For him and himself and everybody around, 'cause he ain't got nobody. So listen. I'm good.
The JP.
There you go. Wayne, the Dominator Johnston, with his son Darcy. So, great to see them get involved with the JP. Wayne Johnston again. So be on the lookout for that. That interview will come out Wednesday, 8 p.m.
It will. So Jumper Punch Tuesday. The teams live 6 p.m. Wednesday, followed by the rest Thursday. Pommy will be back for the watch along on Thursday night. I'll be back for the fan cams Thursday night after the game. The review on Friday. The ratings, the player ratings video is going to be live this season. I like what we did last week. So tune into that, probably Friday, 6 p.m. again. And I've done it. I've wrapped up the show in under an hour. Joe's going to be stoked.
Well done.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Go Blues.